Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be playing with a fun little palette that I got for Christmas. It's by a brand called YVES ROCHER. Doesn't actually have a name. I looked it up. It's just called Eyeshadow Palette, and I think it was part of their Christmas collection. And if I just open it up, it comes with 7 cute cool tone shades. They're really pretty. You've got some darker purpley ones, some mattes, some shimmers. I recently asked my Instagram followers what they wanted to see more of from me this year, and I had a couple of people say they wanted some more natural, wearable, everyday looks, which if you've seen any of my previous videos, it's not normally my thing, but I thought this palette would be absolutely perfect to do something a little bit different today. As always guys, before we get into the video, if you do enjoy it, then make sure you leave me a comment, give it a big thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on my next video. So yeah, let's try out this palette and see what we come up with. I'm going to prime my eyes, and I'm actually going to do something slightly different today. I'm not going to use the P. Louise base. I know, shock horror. It's not the kind of base that I would use on an everyday basis. It's there to get that maximum impact out of your colours, make everything really bright, and we want to go a bit more muted today. So I'm going to go in with a classic. It's the Urban Decay Primer Potion, and what I'm also going to do as well is just use my Too Faced Born This Way concealer just to carve out my brows. This is something that I've been seeing Heather Morehouse or Makeup Mouse do. She's on YouTube and Instagram. She's a really fantastic artist. I will leave her link down below. Definitely check her out if you don't watch her already. She's very talented. Just going to start by taking a Morphe M224, and I'm just going to take some concealer on the brush like so, and I'm just going to prep my brow bone, pack it on a little bit, and just carve out the brow. So I'm just patting that in just like I would normally do with the P. Louise base. Cool, and now just going into the Urban Decay Primer Potion. I'm going to prime the top lid and bottom lid, and hopefully it should fill in those under eye lines and help prevent creasing. Actually, what I am just going to do quickly is jump into one of the brushes that you get with the Anastasia palettes. Just going to take the fluffy end and just make sure that's blended out a little bit and blended into the concealer. I'm going to work the other way with this palette than I normally would. So normally I always start with one of the darkest shades and blend it outwards, but because we're going for something a bit more natural, I want to build it up slowly, so I'm going to start with one of the lighter shades. So I am going to start with shade number 2, which is just a light matte beige, and I'm going to run that through my crease. So I'm just taking that on a crease brush from Iconic London. So I didn't really know what to expect in terms of pigmentation because I've never used these before. It's not taking too much work to get it to show. Okay, you know what? No complaint about that shade so far. It's blended pretty easily. Let's move on to the next one. I'm just going to use the same brush because we want this to be fairly easy. So I'm now going to use shade number 3, and it's a slightly darker, cool brown. I'm going to build that up in my crease, and I'm not going to blow it out as much. Okay, that's quite nice so far. It's just nicely accentuating the shape of the eyes without being too dramatic. I want to deepen the crease even more. So next I'm going to go in with shade number 6, which is the metallic shimmery purple, and I'm going to focus that on my outer corner and a little bit into my crease. And I'm taking this tapered brush from Iconic to keep things a little bit more precise. It's not quite as pigmented as I thought it was at first when I swatched it. I'm just building it up a little bit, and then I'm just going to go back into the first brush just to soften it up. And then actually I'm just going to start blending it towards the lower lash line as well a little bit. But again, I'm not picking up any excess product, I'm just using that first brush. And then for the rest of my eyelid, I'm going to take shade number 4, which is a pinkish shimmery beige colour. I'm going to take it on a flat brush and pack that on to the rest of the lid. I'm actually going to try that with my finger instead, just to see if I get a bit more pigmentation out of it. And then just taking that first brush again and just blending out and softening the edges. Just going to add a little bit more of the purple actually, make sure I'm not losing any of it, and I've just added a little bit more of the light shade. Cool, and now onto a much smaller brush. I'm going to take shade number 7, which is the sparkly dark aubergine shade. I'm going to really try and keep that close to the lashes. And then with that first brush and shade number 2, I'm just going to come and smoke it out. So at this stage, I would probably normally go in with some black gel liner and put in a wing, but to keep things a bit softer, I'm going to use the Barry M Kohl pencil. This is in shade number 2, and I'm going to pop that on my waterline and then on my upper lash line, and I'm going to come in and smoke it out in a second. Gonna blend it out into the purple. In fact, I'm going to come back in with a little bit more of the purple, shade number 6 on that brush, just to blend them in together. This has gone a little bit smokier than I was initially planning on. If you were looking to do this more for an everyday look, I would probably switch out the brown eyeliner on the waterline for a nude that would be really brightening and would really open up your eyes. Okay, I am now going to add some lashes to the look. I'm going to be using some from Ardell. They are the 601 lashes, and I quite like them because they are wispy and fluttery, but without being too big. My lash glue is just drying, so I am going to apply a coat of mascara. I picked up this CYO volume mascara called The Thick of It. Now I picked it up because it's got this huge one and it looks quite similar to the one from Urban Decay Perversion, and I am not a fan. It's just not really doing much for me at all. They do look a bit fluffy right now, but kind of stops there. Okay, so apparently I'm having one of those days where I struggle to stick my lashes on, but I've managed now. They just give everything a tiny bit more volume and a little bit more length and just make everything look a bit more complete. So I'm going to move on to the skin now, so I'm just going to zoom you out for that. Okay, again, so for the skin, I'm going to try and keep things a bit more natural than I normally would, so I'm going to be using some different products. First thing I'm going to use is this SkinKissed Vitamin C Serum. So this is a serum, but you can also use it as a primer. It does leave the skin feeling a little bit tacky, and I do just really like it. I think it just gives your skin an instant glow and just makes you look more awake straight away. For foundation, I'm going to use the Bourjois Healthy Mix Foundation. I've got mine in the shade number 50, which I think is the lightest one. I've got a full review of this up on my blog. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm trying to use it up. It's a more natural finish. It's not a bad everyday foundation, but it's just not my favourite. So I usually use about 2 pumps. It does smell quite nice. It does smell nice and fruity and peachy. And I finally picked up some more Real Techniques sponges, so I'm going to use that to blend it out. Just going to take another pump and just build it up before we go in with concealer. I mean, yeah, it does smell amazing. I will give it that. Then for concealer, of course, I'm going to be using the Too Faced Born This Way Sculpting Concealer in the shade Snow, and I'm going to use that on my under eyes and everywhere where you can still see imperfections. And then just for the under eye, I'm just taking the mini Real Techniques sponge. Next up, I'm going to jump into my iconic London Illuminator. I've got it in the shade Shine, which is the lighter shade, just to highlight now to give a more glowy finish than a really strong highlight. I keep seeing people apply it with a brush lately rather than a sponge, so I'm just going to put some on the back of my hand just to see if I can achieve a slightly more natural finish. Just going to jump back into the first sponge, blend it out a little. There we go. I'm now going to set just my under eyes with the NABLA close-up powder, and I've got another new thing that I'd like to use it with. It is the Bake and Finish brush from Revolution. It comes with a sponge on one side, but it's this tapered brush that I was really excited for. Just going to use a little bit on my forehead as well, just in that line. and on my smile lines as well. Moving on to contour, and I'm really enjoying the Academy of Colour You Define Me contour palette. I'm going to contour with the shade Sculpt and then bronze with the shade Tan. And for my nose contour, I'm just going to use the brush on its edge. I've just found that that works a little bit better than my usual technique, just because the contour shade is so powdery. I have just really been enjoying this contour palette, and I looked it up, and as it turns out it was really affordable, and in fact Debenhams had it down to £1.60 at one point, but it was also out of stock, so I don't know if it was just like a Christmas thing. If it was, that's a real shame. I am just quickly going to jump back into my first brush and just make sure that this lower lash line is nice and blended out. I'm going to do my brows next, and when I do my brows on an everyday basis and I want it to go fast, I use the L'Oreal Brow Artiste Expert. I've got mine in the shade 102 Cool Blonde. I just find it really quick and easy to use, and I can get a nice messy brow out of it. I'm also just going to set the hairs with the Max Factor Natural Brow Styler. I'm now just going to jump back into the palette. I'm going to take my Morphe M558 and the shade number 1, and I'm just going to highlight my brow bone and then my inner corner. For everyday wear, this one isn't bad, just brightening up that inner corner just enough. For my blush, I want to add a bit of colour on my cheeks. I'm going to use Milani's Fake Blush in Dolce Pink. It's giving a lovely glowy finish. So I haven't powdered the rest of my face, just to keep things looking a little bit lighter and a little bit more natural. I'm going to jump into a product that I haven't used in a while. It's the Revolution highlighter palette in Radiance, or the Radiance highlighter palette, I'm not sure. And what I like to do is just take the lighter shade in the middle on all of the high points of my face where I highlight, the shade on the right kind of on the rest of it, and then the darkest shade in my contour point, and it just gives everything a more glowy finish. Just going to add some setting spray, and it seems a bit of a shame because all I've got with me is the Barry M Flawless Mist and Fix, and it's the matte one, so hopefully it doesn't counteract what we've done too much. For lips, I'm going to take the lip pencil and liquid lipstick from one of the Huda Beauty lip sets. They're in the shade Trophy Wife. And I'm just going to take the Makeup Revolution lip topper, and this is going to be the shade Exquisite. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this look. It is quite nice to do something a little bit easier and a little bit less time consuming every now and then. It should make editing a little bit easier. In terms of the palette, I mean, it was quite nice. The shades did blend out together very easily. It's not the most pigmented palette, but then if you do want something kind of more muted, then that's not the worst thing. I would just say that because 4 out of 7 shades are not matte, probably wouldn't get along with this if you have more mature skin. I feel like I did struggle a little bit with it on my lower lash line with the darker shades, just because I've got quite a lot of lines under my eyes. I will say that the darker shades definitely performed a lot better than the lighter shades. All of the crease work that we did turned out really nicely, but I feel like I want a little bit more of the shimmer shade on my eyelid. As always, guys, I will have my blog linked down below. That's Auroreblogs.com, where I try and post reviews at least weekly, and I'll also have my Instagram linked in case you want to see more photos of this look. That's just Auroreblogs. If you enjoyed the video, then do please give it a big thumbs up, leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of it, and of course subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next video. And I've got a couple of really exciting looks and a really fun review planned soon, so yeah, stick around and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.